you're in violation of that law. Within 500 feet of an elementary school, you're in violation of that law. Within 500 feet of a railroad track, you're in violation of that law. Within 500 feet, 50 feet actually, of an underpass or overpass, any highway, you set up a homeless camp, you are in violation of that law. Any public property, especially crosswalks, etc., you are in violation of that law. Private property, and in unincorporated areas as well as within the city limits of Fresno, you are in violation of that law. Now, for those of you who do not get why that's so significant, is because that basically says your ass can't set up a fucking tent nowhere here. Damn near nowhere here. Your ass got to go up to you got to go up to Tulare. You got to go up to you got to take your ass up to Tulare if I sell you somewhere. You can't do nowhere over here. How do we feel about this? I recognize that the homeless problem in California is beyond recompense, beyond solving. I feel like this is putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem, because all you're doing is saying that because the consequence is only either they charge you a $1,000 fee or you spend 6 months in jail. And I'll be honest with you, shit, hell, if you homeless, for some people, shit, 6 months in jail, yeah, a warm bed and a cold bed and some food every day probably ain't the worst thing in the world for you. But it's hard because I don't know, bro. I'm not even going to sit here and act like I can give you like a jing, because I see both sides. For those who are private property, you ever go somewhere, right? This happens in Fresno a lot. If you go somewhere like an empty plot of land, like an empty lot that might be next to a Walgreens, might be next to CVS or something like that in Fresno, and you see out of nowhere maybe 13, 14 homeless people set up a little camp there, a lot of people do not know 9 times out of 10, usually 10 times out of 10, that lot is owned by somebody. That's a private property owned lot. Somebody's family has owned that lot for maybe 20, 30 years or so, or just bought it. Now, they ass might be out the country somewhere, vacationing, or they might have another business somewhere that they're operating on, so they can't necessarily come around to the area and check on them that much. But when they come back over there and see all these goddamn homeless people over here, they got to pay to get them. It's like a whole, you get what I'm saying? So there is a certain inconvenience to everybody. I watched that video the other day, and I might link it to this, of those homeless people who tried to invade somebody's private property and tried to squat, some squatters. And